Good evening, everyone. Take a seat. Right, so good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Council. Firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome to the meeting the newly elected Councillor for Stopsey Ward, Councillor Matthew Fry. So before we begin, could members please sit in their allocated seats, silence their mobile phones, stand up when proposing and seconding items, switch microphones on to speak and off immediately afterwards, and observe the proper, appropriate standards of courtesy in debate. If there is an emergency, please turn left out of the chamber, follow the green emergency exit signs to the main town hall entrance and assemble in St George's Square. Please note, members of the public present are entitled to take photographs, film and audio record and report on the business held in public, but must not act in a disruptive manner. If they do so, they may be asked to leave. Members will be aware of the sad death of former Councillor Anne Donnellan. Councillor Donnellan was first elected to the Council in May 2019 for the Northwell Ward and served until May 2023. On behalf of the Council, I express our sincere condolences on the passing of the late former Councillor Donnellan. Would any member wish to speak? Councillor Simmons.
Thank you, Madam. It's a great sadness that I stand up to talk about Anne Donnellan, who unfortunately died very young, not long after she left the council. Anne was only with us for one term, but during that time made herself well known. She was a very active member in Northwell. She was our whip, and she was also very active on our planning committee. So it is with great sadness that we hear that she has passed away. So I would like to give the thoughts of the Labour group, certainly, to all her family and friends at this very sad time.
Councillor Roach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to offer condolences on behalf of the Northwell councillors, myself, Councillor Nichols and Councillor Babatundi. As we all know, Anne was a Northwell councillor for 4 years, and the people of Mars Farm, who she represented at the time, would like the opportunity to offer their condolences. Not only that, she was also a governor at Woodland Special Needs School, and of course they would also like the opportunity to offer their condolences. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Does any further member wish to speak? Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is indeed a surprise. I mean, I've just literally found out now that Councillor Donnellan has passed away from yourself. I knew Councillor Donnellan. I think we became councillors at the same time in 2019. And she was always someone that looked out for Luton and someone that really cared about the ongoings within this chamber and within Luton. So she will be missed, and it's sad to see her pass away at this young age. But all good things and good thoughts about her. And our condolences from myself and from our group to her family. Thank you.
I would now like to ask the council to stand in. Oh, who did I miss? Aslam, Councillor Aslam Khan.
Thank you, Chair. I had the pleasure of working with Anne for about a term while she was a councillor. She was very passionate about this town and the residents that she represented, and she wasn't certainly shy of expressing her views, both within the party and also in the chambers. And it's really sad to hear that she's passed away at a very young age, and we want to pass our heartfelt condolences on behalf of the Conservative group and myself to the friends and family. She will be sadly missed.
I would now ask the council to stand in silent tribute for 1 minute in memory of the late Councillor Donnellan. You may sit. So, the first item of business is to receive the minutes of the meeting of the Council held on the 15th of July as set out on pages 8 to 10. Do all members agree that the minutes as set out are a correct record? If any member objects, please indicate. Otherwise, I will assume that all members are in agreement. Lovely. So, we move on to apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence?
There are, Madam Mayor. We've received apologies from Councillors Lovell, Marshall, Moore, Nazir and Underwood. Councillor Bacon.
Thank you. I would like to also express the Council's sincere condolences to Councillor Terry Keynes on the sad loss of his wife, Pam. Members, please note that voting at this meeting will be by exception. Rather than calling out each member's name to record their vote, I will ask members to indicate if they wish to vote against a motion. If no member votes against, I will declare the item carried. The outcomes will not be recorded in the minutes unless 6 members of the Council indicate that they wish for this to happen, in accordance with Standing Order 21.2. Please note that subject to the approval of Agenda Item 9.2, meetings of the Licensing Committee, Standards Committee and Taxi and Private Hire Licensing Committee will take place immediately at the end of this meeting to agree the new permutations of members to sit on the panels formed from the membership of those bodies. So I request that all members of those committees please remain in their places at the end of the meeting. So, Section 106, disclosures.
All members of the Council have been circulated with a list of items before the Council this evening which fall within the ambit of Section 106 of the Local Government and Finance Act 1992. Any member affected should disclose the fact and refrain from voting on any questions relating to those items. Madam Mayor, I can confirm there are no Section 106 disclosures that have been received. And also moving on to the disclosures of interest, I can also confirm no disclosures of interest have been received for this evening's meeting.
Thank you. The next item is the consideration of a written question received under Standing Order 9.1. I call upon Councillor Stevens to ask his question of Councillor Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The airspace review in the South East has been put into the hands of a new body called UK Airspace Design Service, UCADS, and community representatives at a recent CAA Department of Transport meeting were very unhappy about the low level of public input into its deliberations. How will the Council ensure that its voice and that of its residents will be heard in this important area?
Thank you very much for your question. At first, the focal point will be for the modernisation of the London airspace. This airspace review will look at the whole of London systemically rather than each airport competing with each other. Currently, they expect the consultation to commence in autumn this year. The London airspace review is one of the areas where Luton Rising and our airport operator will be working together to establish a joint policy position on the airspace changes that are needed, and it will be aligned along with the long-term strategy of London Luton Airport. Obviously, consultation is very important, and if it's due in autumn, then the Council will certainly be engaging in the process itself, and through that process we'll obviously be talking to our community. We will also do all that we can to ensure that we signpost all our residents to the consultation platform that the UK Airspace Design Service will use to run their process. You have my assurance on that.
Supplementary, if I could, please, Madam Chair. Will the line that the Council adopts look at the possibility where some airspace review could take place in Luton, even though it's marginal, to try to stop planes at the flight paths going across homes and to make it a quieter, better environment for the residents of Luton?
I think that airspace modernisation is the one area where airports, airlines and the community all agree that we all want to get aircraft higher sooner to reduce noise on the ground. So anything that can hopefully start to deliver this benefit, we will take part in, and I'm sure will try and influence the decisions that go back to this body.
Right, the next item is the consideration of a written question received under Standing Order 9.1, which I call upon Councillor Franks to ask his question of Councillor Roche.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a very simple question. Would Councillor Roche please tell us when and by whom the approval was given for the sale of Wandham Park to a development company owned by the council?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. Simple question, simple answer, but just intrigued to see where this may lead us. My response, the approval was given on 9th of January 2023 by the Executive.
If I may follow that up, Madam Mayor, there's somewhat difficulty here because we have two letters from senior council management dated 2023 and 2024 saying that that's not so. If you'd allow me just to quote the relevant sentences from the letters, that this is, quote, letter sent to a Luton resident who raised the query. And the letter says, "You are incorrect to state the sale was agreed on the 9th of January 2023. This meeting gave only a preliminary approval, that being necessary to trigger the requirement to consult. The only value given was an estimated value subject to final valuation. No sale has been formally agreed. As it stands, a further executive and valuation are required before the sale can proceed." Now, that statement doesn't square with the answer I've just been given. One of them must be wrong. Which one is it, please?
Well, it would be an executive approval. I've not seen that response, David, so I can't really answer to that response, but it would have been an executive approval, and if the executive would have been on the 9th of January 2023, that would have been approved that day.
Okay, let's move on then. So we haven't got an answer to when the date that the sale was finally approved. They both can't be right, so there must be another answer somewhere. Moving on to the valuation, which mentioned in the letter, the going rate for house building land in Luton is around about £100,000 per house plot. A bit more in posh areas, a bit less in not so desirable areas. Given that Wandham Park has a planning consent for 65 houses, that gives a starting point for negotiations of £6.5 million. According to the Government Land Registry website, public information, the park was sold to a council-owned development company for £2 million. Would Councillor Roche please give us the reason for the £4.5 million discount?
Well, firstly, your figures are subjective. I have no idea where you got them from, but they're totally wrong. We had 3 valuations been done on Wandham Park. As you know, Foxhall Homes is a fully owned company by the council and was established to undertake a range of property development activities in recognition of the housing shortage in Luton. 28% affordability homes will be on that site for the people and the families in Luton. that's a must. That's a necessary thing that's got to happen. A core part of the work is to provide up to 30% affordable rental. We're going to have 28% on a mixed tenure development. The value of the site paid to the council is considered as part of the viability of a scheme and reflects the provision of affordable housing for Luton residents, as well as the significant increase in most recent times in building costs and construction inflation, which today is up to around about 35%. I don't know where you got your figures from. We have 3 valuations. The valuations were dated July 2019, July 22 and June 2023, which knocks your one out of the park, really. So I don't know where you got that from. If you've done it on the back of a fag packet, mathematical calculation, I don't know. But we've got independent valuations to show the valuation we have is correct. And then we work in the construction cost and the viability issue and come down to the point of sale. Thank you.
Any housing developer who knows anything at all about their work will tell you that £100,000 per plot is about the right starting point. That's not a figure I've made up. It's well known amongst those who are involved in development. Not me, I'm not a developer, I've no intention of being so. As for the £2 million price that the council actually sold the land for, that is public information. I didn't make that up either. It's published on the Government Land Registry website. So am I to assume that the £4.5 million discount was because of the 17 or 18 affordable houses are likely to be built on the site?
Well, firstly, you said you're not a developer. Okay, nor am I. That's why we have professionals do evaluation. And once again, I will say, your valuation is incorrect. However you got to that, it's down to you how you got to that, but it's incorrect. We go on valuations given to us by three professional bodies, and we work back on that. But we are, let's look at this. You've got a director there of Foxhall Homes, okay? Approved the scheme. Whoever set on Foxhall Homes approved that scheme, approved the cost of that scheme, and they're quiet now. And so in public, they're quiet. Behind the doors at Foxhall Homes, they're approving the scheme, approving the work. I don't know where you got your figures from. I don't know where you got your figures from. I don't know where you got figures from in the first place in relation to the dates. But your evaluation is incorrect. So we have the proper valuation done by independent bodies, which will come down, put into the viability, put in the cost of construction,
Rob,
which
can I
give us
pause
the
you
price.
for a minute?
And the £2 million, I didn't say, you got that wrong.
Rob,
it's public, yeah, thank you.
Can I pause you for a minute?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Roche has identified one of my councillors who was not in that.
Sorry, Councillor.
Councillor Ali, it was Councillor Idris who raised the point of personal explanation.
So, Councillor Idris can, if he wishes so, make a point of personal explanation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Roach, I only became a director of Foxhall Homes in June this year, as you know. So the sale of Foxhall, the land was done well before that. So I think you owe me an apology for that. That's misinformation.
No, I accept that. And when I said that, I did correct it and said directors at that time. So I did correct it at that time.
Yeah, can we just come back to this £2 million, please, Madam Mayor? I'm not sure what Councillor Roche is saying. Is he saying that the government's land registry website is publishing figures which are not correct? Because I think that's a very serious accusation to make.
Just refer back to the valuations that we have done by professional independent people who would have known that, okay? And they would have given us the valuation to work back with the viability, with the construction costs that would give us the cost to purchase the land. I'll keep referring back to the professional information that we've got.
No, that's not what you said at all. What actually Councillor Roche said was the 2 million figure is not correct. It's the figure that's published by the government on the Land Registry website. Is he saying they're publishing incorrect figures?
I'm rejecting the 6 million, 6.5 million you're saying, but not rejecting the 2 million, so I know that's public notice. It's what was paid.
OK, we're getting somewhere, but we still haven't actually established that the council has at any point through its democratic process, formally approved the sale of the land. If the 9th of January 2023 is correct, as he says, well, fine. But that's not borne out by the letter, or 2 letters, that have been sent to Luton residents saying you are incorrect to state the sale was agreed on the 9th of January 2023. We really need to understand, has a formal legal decision been made to sell the land, or hasn't it? And if it has, on what date, please?
Well, I've given you my answer, but we have to do a written response on that now to get back to you. But I've given you my answer. I've been given to.
Done? Okay. Right. So the next item of the agenda are 4 reports of the Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue Authority as set out on pages 11 to 15. So I call upon Councillor Burnett to present this report.
Evening colleagues. I present the report before you today, and it's on page 11.
11 to 15.
Thank you.
Right, is the motion seconded? Thank you. Are there any questions? Does the council receive the report? If any member objects, please indicate. Otherwise, I will assume that all members present are in agreement. Lovely. With regard to agenda item 7, there are no written questions this evening for the Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue Authority. So the next item of the agenda is item 8.1, which is the Treasury Management Annual Report. I call upon Councillor Roche to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a little bit of a briefing. The report provides a statutory overview of the Council's Treasury activities for 24-25, confirming full compliance with Local Government Act 2003, SITFA codes and the approved Treasury Management Strategy. All borrowing in and investment activities were compliant with no breaches of statutory limits. Year-end debt was 785 million, 192 million below the capital financing requirement, confirming no borrowing in advance of need. Actual capital expenditure was lower than forecast due to the reprofiling of major schemes, example the TAP scheme and commercial investments, now deferred to 25-26. The Council remained under-borrowed by 191.7 million using internal resources to reduce costs. External borrowing rose by 33 million, including 100 million secured from the Public Works and Loan Boards for long-term stability. Short-term borrowing supported cash flow. Average investment balances were 26 million, earning 1.3 million at 4.9% return. Investments were short-term and secure with no liquidity issues. Key risks include borrowing affordability and capital delivery, fixed-rate borrowing early in the year, mitigated interest rate risk, and continued monitoring of interest rates and levels of borrowing is essential. I ask the Council to approve the recommendations. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded? Thank you. Are there any questions? Two. Remind me. I'll go Councillor Gillian Fry first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to get some clarity around paragraph 38 on page 122. And it's referring to the line that says Appendix B. It says in cash terms, this outperformance equates to 1.287 thousand. I'm wondering if that's meant to be million. And I just want to get some clarity at how the 125k third-party payments relates to that 1.287 thousand or million.
The Roach.
We get a written response for you on that one. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Matt Fry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just would... Oh, right, sorry. Right. I'm new, so apologies. Please can you provide me with the figures that are missing from point 60 on page 25 of the pack?
We'll provide that for you. Thank you.
It's just this bit here. Thank you. So, any further questions? Oh, okay. Councillor Aslam Khan first. Councillor Franks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report talks about the constraints on borrowing and also some of the capital projects which have been factored in, but stage project has been delayed for time and time again, which means it's putting the levelling up funding at risk, which if we don't deliver that projects by 2026, that means that money could be clawed back. Does the report consider that potential risk, and does the council has appetite to borrow another £20 million to fund that project, and possibly much more, because day on day and each day the cost of building is increasing, and that delay, it will be costing this council a lot of money. Can the portfolio holder or the portfolio holder for finance assure this house that assure this council that the levelling up funding will not be put at risk, and secondly, if that's so, considering the delays, does the council has the appetite to fund that project?
Yeah, I'll refer to Councillor Taylor. This report deals with the Treasury Manager up to 31st of March 2025, so I refer to my colleague.
Yeah, just in relation to this, yes, there are delays related to the stage development, entirely related to the new building safety regulator, sitting entirely within their sphere. They've not been properly resourced to be able to deal with the applications that are coming through. With regards to levelling up funding, we've kept MHCLG updated at all points in relation to delays. They understand the reason for the delays. They're not concerned about the project. In fact, they rate it as a low-risk project for them, and there's no implication that funding will be withdrawn or must be spent by that date. They've been happy to extend it so far. I think we're just waiting for confirmation that they extend it following the latest delay imposed by the Building Safety Regulator to the 9th of November.
Follow up.
Oh.
So again, there are many ifs and buts, and it doesn't give us a surety. So that means that, you know, that also has an impact on your housing targets. So that potentially has further complications for housing, as well as the potential cost burden that will have on the council budget. So can you also assure that that will not have an impact on the overall budget?
Point of order. This has nothing to do with the Treasury Management Report. Thank you.
I think that's veering a bit off the topic of the report. Shall we move on to Councillor Franks?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm referring to the chart on page 27 in Appendix A, which says the council currently has a gross debt of £785 million. I just wondered if any of the executive members or the portfolio holder for finance is worried about that huge debt.
Well, we meet the prudential factors. So the answer is, at this stage, we're not worried about it, no.
Looking elsewhere on the report, I mean, we all know that a huge part of that £785 million is money that's been loaned to the council's airport company for investment in future developments. And we've been told time and time again that that money, the money loaned to the airport company, will be repaid out of the capital sum they're expecting to receive when the new concession agreement is started in, I think, was it 2032? That may or may not be the case, but a huge chunk of this £785 million is actually in long-term debts, not short-term or medium-term debts. So is that an indication that, in fact, they're not expecting to be able, the airport company, to be able to repay its £500 million debt in 2032?
Madam Mayor, I don't know if I'm going into private here. I need advice, please, in responding to that.
Perhaps a written response could be provided.
I'll give you a written response, Councillor. Thank you.
That would be helpful. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Right. So, that's questions. Are there any amendments? No. Does any member wish to speak to the motion? No. Okay. So the motion is before the council. Does any member vote against the proposal? Okay. So the motion is therefore carried. So the next item on the agenda is item 8.2, which is the Youth Justice Plan. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move this recommendation.
Madam Mayor, there is a statutory requirement to produce and submit to the Youth Justice Board a Youth Justice Plan as set out in the Crime and Disorder Act 1988, Section 40. This document goes through a rigorous scrutiny and feedback process and is shared with partners. Pam Bedfordshire for feedback, is presented at senior management and director team meetings, goes through corporate leaders team meetings and through political scrutiny at the Children's Services Review Group before signing off at full council, which is why it's before you this evening. The plan details the Youth Partnership Service performance against the national indicators and allows that and shows that in 24-25 the service delivered the best performance in its history, which I think is to be congratulated. The Youth Justice Plan provides details around the service's serious violence duty, links to the Community Safety Partnership Plan and Luton 2040 outcomes. The plan details many of the additional outstanding initiatives from last year, including bringing the Knife Angel into Luton in August and coordination of the community organisations delivering intervention in our communities. Commissioning the Art for Voices school competition, which saw presentation to approximately 4,000 school children, and the continued development of the Youth Council. I therefore commend the Youth Justice Annual Plan to Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any questions? No. Are there any amendments? Does any member wish to speak to the motion? Okay, so the motion is before the council. Does any member vote against the proposal? So the motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is item 9.1, members' allowances. So I call upon Councillor Mahmood Hussain to move the recommendation.
Madam Mayor, can I seek guidance on declaration of interest? It mentions the fostering panel, and as the only member of the council on the fostering panel, I would benefit from this recommendation.
Can the monitoring officer? Okay. It is not necessary for members to declare an interest on items related to members' allowances.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so can I invite Councillor Hussain to move the recommendation?
I move the recommendation at paragraph 2 set out on page 53 of the agenda.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Seconded.
Okay, thank Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Franks.
Just to be absolutely clear, the £5,000 increase that the Leader of the Council will benefit from under this proposal is in addition, of course, to the standard allowance that has been increased by 3.2% under council policy. So the question really is, what, please, is the Leader of the Council planning to do, or what has she done, to justify an increase of more than £5,000 in her allowance in addition to the standard allowance that everybody else is getting?
It's obviously a recommendation of the Independent Remuneration Panel on members' allowances, so I suggest that we ask the Chair for a written response, giving the rationale of the panel.
So it's ducking out, using standing orders to avoid answering the questions. Are we? Am I going to get? Am I going to get a written answer to the question of why the £2,500 increases are being awarded to the deputy and to other executive members?
Sorry.
Can I, please?
Okay,
Mayor,
Hussain, Councillor Hussain, yes.
Yeah. Point of order, Madam Mayor. He will get the written answer from the independent chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that is correct. Are there any further questions on the report? No. Okay. So are there any amendments? No. So does any member wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Franks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I really find it quite incredible that we are asked to approve a massive increase in the special responsibility allowances for the elite members of the Executive Committee, including the Leader and the Deputy Leader. And even when it's admitted in the report that the total will actually take the cost of members' allowances to £26,000 more than the budget that was set only 6 months ago. Not only £26,000 more than the budget that was set, but I would remind members that finance scrutiny was told only last week that the forecast at the end of Q1 is that the total council budget will be overspent by £6.7 million. In the light of a forecast £6.7 million overspend, it seems to us, as the opposition group on the council, that it would be a good idea for the leading members to set an example and not go grabbing extra cash at a time when they should be striving to bring back the 6.7 million that the council is probably going to overspend. And that's only at Q1. Who knows what the figures will be as we go through the year. But £6.7 million is a lot of taxpayers' money.
Councillor Hanif.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I think it's surprising to see the opposition make comments, but they've not put forward an amendment. You're clearly unhappy with it, propose something, but it's been set by an independent panel. And for him to use words like elites, I think that's really rude and disrespectful of the electorate to have put everyone in this chamber here. And also, if we want to reward members for all the unpaid hours that, that they do, and to hold on to high-caliber people in public office, then there needs to be some sort of incentive. And going by the numbers that he just mentioned, that's a 0.38% increase on the total overspend that he's quoted. So if you're coming here with questions, give us an alternative. In the budget that we have every February, you guys raise questions, but you've yet to put forward an alternative budget. So instead of asking questions just so you can have footage for your social media, I think you should come here asking proper questions and provide an alternative that we can all hear and vote on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Burnett.
Yeah, I think, I was hoping not to comment. We have gone through pain. We have walked with our residents, and Councillor Franks knows that. When I became a councillor in 2007, it was £5,000 the allowance. It went up to 7.5 in 2011, when the independent panel have made no ends of recommendation until the last increase, and we didn't put it up. Cost of living scope went up, but we walked with our residents. So, and the thing that got me about the elite, people need to research and find out what Scottish councillors get, what Welsh councillors get, what Irish, Northern Ireland councillors get. English councillors are not consistent, absolutely not consistent at all. And it's unfair for us in England that having cost of living increase, like our counterparts in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, to have to be doing these sort of discussions every time we talk about an increase. Is absolutely unethical and unfair. We walk with our residents. We're feeling the same level of pain as them when bills go up. But every time we ask for an increase, we have this sort of political showdown. And what's coming up, when you was a councillor back in the committees, is totally different to what a council, an elected councillor, has to do now. It is a massive amount of work. The work has changed. And oh yeah, we've got devolution coming. Our leader, whoever holds the role of a leader, is going to have to do the navigation of devolution. Whoever holds the role. So it's not about the individual, it is about the role. And I think it's necessary for me to put that on record. Please Google and see what the local authorities as councillors get in the United Kingdom. If we are one kingdom, we all should get the same allowance.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. I've got Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in response to a couple of things my honourable colleagues across the room have said, they talk about respect and etiquette, and yet as soon as one of my councillors stands up to say something, they
I just remind people to talk about the context of the motion itself.
That is the context of the motion, and I am about to get there. But what I am saying is also relevant in terms of respect for other members in the chamber, and I'm sure, Madam Mayor, that I am entitled to actually represent that as the leader of the opposition. Now, if we are going to have these kind of discussions, obviously we have reservations. We have just had an increase last year. So therefore, what Councillor Burnett is saying, I mean, yes, we understand cost of living, but we already had an increase last year. So why then, right at this moment in time where we are struggling for finances, that the leader and the deputy leader try and increase their allowances to such a high degree? Point taken, thank you. But Madam Mayor, and then on top of that, we're trying to, the fostering panel as well. Throughout the whole of UK, I mean, the report itself says that not many of the other authorities actually pay the fostering panel. This is recommendation 2. And yet again, we're trying to circumnavigate and try and dish out more money to pay for this. I would certainly not go for this. I don't think this is the right time, and this is not certainly the right financial environment to be awarding pay increases for councillors. Thank you.
Councillor Mahmood. Bassett Mahmood.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, it's clear in every nuance and uttering that you're trying to blame the Labour group for an increase in allowance when you know fully well, and you've just heard, that it's been done by an independent panel. So I suggest you reserve your ire for the independent panel. And when you look at context matters, we're still, compared to neighbouring local authorities, right, with less demand. I'm not saying increase it to their level, no, but put it in context. It's lower than other neighbouring local authorities, and if you're so angry about it, take it up with the independent panel. Don't use it as a political attack on the Labour group.
Councillor Aslam Khan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm quite surprised to hear some of the comments in ethics and care for the community and amount of hours that you guys put into the job. Some of us here have done it for a very long time and have done more meetings than you could ever imagine. And you talk about independent panels. We considered independent panel recommendations for 10 years and chose to not have that increase. What makes you different? All of you guys have additional jobs, and you're in a better position to work through these difficult financial times compared to some of our poor residents. And like it has been said, this council is struggling with finances, already being overspent, and we know that year on year is going to be very difficult to find that money and potentially closure of some of those services. So why have you chosen to accept our recommendations when people before you for 10 years, regardless of the difficulty, we shared that pain and walked that journey with our residents, when you choose not to? And that's being selfish, because if you look at the increase last year and year before, it has been significant. If you look at percentage of increase, that's quite significant. So it's your choice at the end of the day to accept those recommendations or not. People before you didn't, and you chose to. That means you don't care about your residents.
Okay, I have Councillor Gillian Fry, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Keeping this, this squarely on context, we are being asked to vote on a recommendation, not by the council, by a panel. I feel very strongly that as constituents in Luton are facing financial hardships, we are in a privileged role. We are volunteers. I take my volunteering aspect of my role very seriously. Therefore, I feel it's only right that us as councillors do walk that journey, as has already been said, with our very hard up residents facing financial problems, and actually reject this offer as a matter of solidarity with our residents. Thank you.
We have Councillor Yaron Begum.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to go back to the point that Councillor Franks was making. Does this proposal in terms of the allowances really affect our budget in that manner? Is it really going to bring that or reduce the difference in our budget? It's not really going to dent it. We know, those of us that sit on finance scrutiny, we know why we have that struggle. We know why the budget, although it is balanced, but we still do have a deficit, and we know the reasons why. And Councillor Rob Roach has actually come in a number of times, answered our questions, and we know exactly why that is. It is because we care about our residents. It is because we want services to continue for our elderly residents, for our vulnerable children, and it is because we put them first. So for the members in this chambers to say that we don't care about our residents is absolutely wrong. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do we have any further speakers? Oh, Angela, sorry. It's already spoken once. Do we have any further speakers to the motion that hasn't spoken already? Okay, perfect. So, the proposal is before the council. Does any member vote against the proposal?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and I would ask my colleagues to rise in support of a recorded vote on this issue.
Okay, we would need 6 members to vote for a recorded vote. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll now move to a recorded vote. If I can ask each of the members as we go around the room to confirm their position. Councillor Abbas.
For.
Councillor Ahmed.
Against.
Councillor Ajid Lola.
For.
Councillor Amjid Ali.
Against.
Councillor Umi Ali.
For.
Councillor Ambia.
Against.
Councillor Baker. Councillor Yaron Begum.
For.
Councillor Bridgen.
Against.
Councillor Burnett.
For.
Councillor Chowdhury.
For.
Councillor Farouk.
For.
Councillor Franks.
Against.
Councillor G. Fry.
Against.
Councillor M. Fry. Councillor Hanif.
For.
Councillor Javeria Hussain.
For.
Councillor Javid Hussain. Councillor Mahmood Hussain. Councillor Samia Hussain.
For.
Councillor Isles.
For.
Councillor Keynes. Councillor Alia Khan.
For.
Councillor Aslam Khan.
Against.
Councillor Latif.
Against.
Councillor Mahmood.
For.
Councillor Anwar Malik.
Against.
Councillor Katicha Malik.
For.
Councillor Rahana Malik.
For.
Councillor Mead.
Against.
Councillor Miller.
Against.
Councillor Nichols.
For.
Councillor Raja.
For.
Councillor Roach.
For.
Councillor Salim.
For.
Councillor Shaw. Councillor Simmons.
For.
Councillor Skeppelhorn. Absent, will note. Councillor Steer.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
Against.
Councillor Dave Taylor.
For.
And Councillor James Taylor.
For.
And the motion is carried, 26 in favour, 15 against.
Thank you very much. The motion's carried. So, the next item on the agenda is agenda item 9.2, composition of council committees and membership of committees and other bodies. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move the recommendation.
The report 9.2 is self-explanatory, but I do have some further names to add or recommendations here for members. I further move that further to Councillor Chowdhury becoming a member of the Executive, Councillor Taylor be appointed to fill the vacancy on Overview and Scrutiny Board, Councillor Steer be appointed to fill the vacancy on Scrutiny, Health and Social Care Review Group, and Councillor Chowdhury be removed from the membership of Overview and Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any amendments? No. Okay. Does any member wish to speak to the motion? No. The motion is before the council. Does any member vote against the proposal? Okay, the motion is carried. So the next item is agenda item 9.3, which is the Scrutiny Annual Report 2024 to 2025. I call upon Councillor Amjid Ali to present the report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the recommendation set out on paragraph 2 on page 65.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the report? No. Are there any amendments? No. So does any member wish to speak to the motion? No. Okay. So the motion is before the council. Does any member vote against? Okay. The motion is carried. So the next item of the agenda is agenda item 9.4, which is an amendment to the membership of the Health and Wellbeing Board. I call upon Councillor Simmons to present the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, this report, 9.4, is fairly self-explanatory, so I ask the Council to agree it.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any questions? No. Are there any amendments? Does any member wish to speak to the motion? No. The motion is before the Council. Does any member vote against the proposal? The motion is carried. So we move on to the Bedfordshire Police and Crime Panel Activity Report. So I call upon Councillor Mahmood to present the Bedfordshire Police and Crime Panel Annual Activity Report for 2024-2025, as set out in the report circulated separately.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the report be noted.
Is the motion seconded? Oh, sorry. Someone just needs to second it.
Seconded.
Thank you. Right. Are there any questions? No. Okay. Does the Council receive the report?
Comments?
There's not a section for comments. Do you have a question?
Okay.
Okay, you can ask a question if you wish.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I understand that the increase in the precept in 2024-2025 was an increase of £13 for a typical band D, and in 2025-26, £14, about 5.8% rise. I understood that promises were given that these increases were put forward on the basis that we would be getting extra community policing. As I understand it, this hasn't happened. I do believe that the panel is supposed to be a critical friend for the police force and for the crime and police commissioner. So can I please ask if we could take back a question to the panel? Will they be asking the Police and Crime Commissioner what has happened to the additional funding for community police that we were promised?
Okay.
Because it doesn't seem to have happened.
Councillor Mahmood, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, Councillor. I can certainly take that recommendation back, but I can assure you that we as a panel do hold the Commissioner to account and the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner. We have seen an increase in the number of police and community support officers. I can get you a written answer back, but we've also seen initiatives like Safer Summer, Safer Streets Partnership that have seen more collaborative working with both the police and enforcement officers. So we are seeing that change on the ground in Luton. We're seeing it in the town centre, and I can assure you we'll be carrying on holding the Commissioner to account.
Okay. Any questions on the report? Yeah, perfect. Right. So does the Council receive the report? Okay. So the next item of business is the notice of motion as set out at agenda item 11.1 on the agenda. I therefore call upon Councillor Burnett to move the motion.
Hi. Evening, colleagues. I brought this motion before you today, having reflected about the growth agenda that the Labour Party is bringing, the government, and how I, over the years, have seen the deterioration of the quality of housing in Luton. I can never forget what I saw the morning I woke up and I turned on the TV and I watched Grenfell. So that is the motivation behind why this motion is before you today. I am minded of seeing the pictures of how the flames went up the side of that building. And I'm reminded that years ago, social housing was the pinnacle of standards in this country. It was actually envied. And I could never understand how that happened until things started to unfold. And what it showed and what revealed itself was that people thought the importance of revenue and profit over the value of life. And I do not want that to happen in this town, that I have made my home for over 30 years, that I have raised a family. It is really important that we give a clear message as we move forward as to what we expect of developers. I know that the government has brought in stronger regulation with building safety, but I've heard from the Fire Brigades Union that planning is not a statutory consultee on planning. And they are concerned that developers, in concentrating on the profit, will do what they can to circumnavigate and cut costs. So for me, it's really important, this motion, and I thank the officers, the officer Karen for her time in spending and working with the fire service to pull this motion together. So it's clear before you where the legislation stands right now. But for me, it also is a recognising of collaboration. With less resources, it's important that we have to work together more and more. They said the sum of the total is greater than its individual parts. There's also an African saying of Ubuntu, is about unity, community. That's some of the things we've actually lost in this country, in this town. We don't think about the next person in consideration. So the main thing I want to draw out and say today, number one, it recognised the good collaboration taking place between fire and Luton officers. When I go to, if you was ever to do a tour of the Luton fire station, they've got a wall of shame. The prevention and protection team are there. On all the enforcement and prosecution, it's Luton out of the whole of the county that has the most. We have the most HMOs. Bedfordshire is growing, but it's Luton. Where growth is going to be flat, because we do not have the land like central Bedfordshire and Bedford Borough that we can build houses with a garden, you know, where the children can run. No, we haven't got that in Luton. We're going to be looking at flat to get and to deal with the housing list. So the collaboration is really important to continue. It also formalised the collaboration working that is needed between the two to move forward. That's what I need us to do. Because, you know, people move, that corporate knowledge move on. From the time of being a councillor to now, I don't think there's anybody still here from the senior leadership team. Everybody has like, no, Mark Turner's still here. Mark's got a lot of knowledge. Yeah, the oracle is Mark. But other than that, people leave, organisations do not tend to keep that knowledge. So I want us to formalise that working closely together. And most of all, I want this, most people will not know that fire is not a statutory consultee in planning. And I want that to change. We can only do so much. So that's why in the motion, we asked Mark, the chief exec, to write to government. Everybody wants planning to be a statutory consultancy in planning. So I hope that explains my motivation behind this. I'm really thankful for the officers and the fire service to work together, but my conscience would not feel good if I ever was to see what I woke up that morning in my town. I just can't, I can't. And to still feel that now, how many years later, those families are still dealing with the trauma that has not been resolved. Yeah? Access to mental health is really, really challenging now. They're still living with that. Some of them still haven't got adequate housing. I don't want that to any resident in our town. So I hope I can get your unanimous support in this being moved. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Wait, do we all normally ask questions on the motion? Yeah, okay. Are there any questions? Councillor Mead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I also ask Councillor Burnett, on that list, can she put in, she includes the 2 Luton MPs and ask them to pursue this in Parliament with all their whatever they have? Thank you.
Yeah, on procedures, Mayor, Madam Mayor, can we incorporate that if it's all agreeable? I don't know procedurally, is that okay?
That's fine if you're happy.
Yeah, I'm happy. Hello, I want this to happen, so I'm not going to say no if it helps getting over the line.
Okay, have we got any questions about the motion? Right. Are there any amendments to the motion?
I think that was an amendment, Madam
I
Mayor.
think technically. But as long as you accept it, that's fine. Does any member wish to speak to the motion? Did we have any on this side? Sorry? Babatunde. Okay, let's start with Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Bernard is absolutely right in terms of the Grenfell tragedy. And what I would really like to highlight is the fact that it's taken so many years to actually reach this stage where we are changing legislation and laws for something that happened back in 2017. That process should have been a lot faster and implemented a lot more efficiently than it has currently been done. What is also to note is the fact that our Bedfordshire Fire Service does an excellent job with the limited resources it has. And I suppose in terms of what Councillor Burnett is trying to say here with the motion is that with the restrained resources, it requires a combined approach from all councils within Bedfordshire and especially within Luton, that we come together and we make sure that our citizens and our buildings are safe. Furthermore, to the fact that in our planning applications, there are several high-rise buildings which previously we haven't been able to deal with. We haven't had that challenge before. So therefore, it's even more important that we, from our planning department to our enforcement and all the way to the fire authority, we have a uniform approach to make sure that we are prepared for anything that comes in our way. Quite often, what is quoted is the fact that, yes, we do have a fail-safe, but the fail-safe is only one aspect. In the fact that if you look at high-rise buildings, that the cladding is now fireproof, etc. But what doesn't take into account is if the access is from, I think it's floor 7 onwards, that only require one access staircase. If that is no longer accessible and a situation arises where people need to vacate the building, then there isn't anywhere they can go. So although, yes, we accept that the regulations are better, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. I myself and my team will be wholeheartedly adopting this motion and voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. So next I had Councillor Aslam Khan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I certainly welcome this report. I think that tragedy over Grenfell reminded us what needed to be done, and we're really grateful to our fire service as well as the rest of partnership that have prevented from incidences happening here, and this is to ensure that we future-proof some of our high-rise buildings. However, it's just not about cladding, it's about making sure everything, even the smallest of escape routes or even entry points, are sealed properly. And what I see is sometimes substandard work that goes on, and some of that detail is not probably carried on to the standard that it should be, particularly in multiple house occupancies, because the focus here in this report is about 6 stories and above. But don't forget, a lot of people live in HMOs too and other multiply occupied premises. So I hope that this report also looks at, you know, for those premises and some of the work that some of these companies are doing. You know, they're here working, and some of the work that I see is appalling. I know we've raised our concerns against it, but that work still goes on. And there are a lot of people just money making. They have no expertise in building work whatsoever. They're just employing these cowboys. And we've allowed them to work in our town and putting some of those houses at risk. And I think there needs to be more focus on within the context of this motion on that work, and we start putting some pushback and getting some professionals working in this environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ajisola?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I want to begin by thanking my colleague, Councillor Bonnet, for bringing this important motion forward. This motion, arises from one of the painful lessons of the Grenfell fire outbreak, which was horrendous, and of course led to unnecessary loss of lives. May the souls of the department continue to rest in peace. So supporting this motion is a way, I think, of ensuring that they do not die in vain. It's going to provide the lesson of, protecting our future lives, most importantly in our Luton. The importance of information sharing between regulatory bodies has been well captured, which I really appreciate that as well. It cannot be overemphasized. Between the building service regulators and the local authorities, sharing information is very, very important, and equally to, making sure such tragedy never occur in Luton. Thank you.
David Franks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a great deal in this motion which is clearly worth supporting, but I can't let the opportunity go without mentioning the pat on the back that the motion gives to the Labour government for eventually catching up on public concern following the awful tragedy at Grenfell. In fact, the government is behind in the queue, and it wouldn't be out of order for Luton Council to be patting itself on the back for actions that it has taken. It's ages ago, I can't remember the date, but a long, long time ago, the Luton Council's Development Management Committee agreed to a Liberal Democrat motion stating quite categorically that they would not approve any residential building of 7 stories or more if it only had one staircase. The one staircase, I should remind you, that the residents would need to use to try and get out of the building at precisely the same time as the fire brigade might be using it to try and get into the building. That's a stipulation in the building regulations which certainly should have been dealt with a very, very long time ago. And I'm proud to be a member of the Development Management Committee that agreed that they certainly wouldn't grant consent for such buildings. But what has the government done about it? They've set up this building safety regulator, and they've set it up as a whole new bureaucracy and without the funding that it needs to do its job. And let's not forget, Luton is a victim of this underfunded bureaucracy. Plans for the stage development were submitted to the building safety regulator in July 2024. The council was promised an answer in 4 weeks. Then it was promised an answer by March 2025. There have been 3 further delays along the way, and the latest estimate is November 2025. We shall see whether that happens or whether it doesn't. But I have to ask, what does this say, please, about a government removing red tape and blaming local councils for holding up investment and development? Let's hope they keep to the November deadline.
Councillor Ghulam Abbas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
First of all, Councillor Burnett, I'd like to congratulate you for bringing this motion forward. I think having safe buildings and safe homes is the #1 priority for our council. Just answering something where Councillor Franks was going on, the building safety regulator was actually set up by the previous government. So it's something that we've inherited, and this government's inherited and is trying to sort out. So you just need to bear with us while we're doing that. The other thing is, as a council, I'm sure you'll all agree, there's no room for substandard construction or renovations. And if you recall at the last council meeting, Councillor Franks asked me questions where I said we are actually doubling our private sector housing team to actually go after people who are having illegal HMOs and having substandard accommodation. So this part of the chamber is actually doing some work about improving that and strengthening that. And I just wanted to say that. And thank you, Councillor Burnett, for bringing this motion.
Next I had Councillor Javad Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as portfolio holder for planning and building control, I welcome this motion and thank you, my colleague, for bringing this very, very important motion. And also, my colleague on the other side, I actually welcome your comments about the ethical. I'd like to hear about ethical builders who think about putting a second rather than their viability, who will want to get the right HMOs. I absolutely agree with you. So I hope that when we bring the selective licensing back, we'll get support from the other side on the selective licensing that we've been trying to get through for a while, because we need to do that, because we want to improve both high-rise, but also all the properties that people who are residents who are renting, paying extortionate rents to. They deserve safe, good quality homes, and I actually welcome your comments as a ethical builder that, you know, we should be putting in resident safety first and not our pockets first. Thank you.
Next I had Councillor Shaw.
And I was going to have a nice quiet night, Madam Mayor. The fire safety bill and the building safety bill itself is more than welcome. What Jackie said is 100% right. I think the government's made one mistake with it. They went to private contractors first to do the enforcement on it. There was massive hold-ups because private contractors were going to do it off desk drawings. So they decided then to get the fire brigade involved. The problem with that is they haven't given the fire brigade any extra money to start going through it all. That's the first thing the government wants to do. I do agree with you that day, Councillor Franks. The government has got to fund this properly and it's got to fund it. The fire brigade in Bedfordshire are the best partner this council could ever hope for. They actually use, a lot you won't know because you don't, all you're bothered about is your own little politics, but they use our high-rise blocks for training exercises on a regular basis. They warn the tenants. Sometimes they even do it in one block, where there's only one now in Luton with a single staircase. They don't even tell the tenants to come into that block. They use it as a proper training exercise. I'm surprised at you, Councillor Aslam, talking about dodgy work in HMOs, because as a councillor, if a fire now happens in one of those HMOs that you'd identified dodgy work on, you personally could be liable for corporate manslaughter or being involved in corporate manslaughter. Because the one thing the fire brigade does, and it does it on a regular basis, is once they get told about an HMO in the town, they will inspect, and they've got more power than we have as a council, because they've closed dozens down like that when they found dodgy work. So if you do know one, Councillor Aslam, instead of getting on your feet in this council chamber, I suggest you get onto private sector housing, let private sector housing know where that dodgy work is, so we can quickly get inspections done instead of talking about it in the council chamber, because that would be a lot better for the people that live there. So if you know any, I'm sure the two housing portfolio holders, how many they've got now, I'm sure they would welcome that it's a private, well-stocked, Councillor Aslam. Yes, I agree, he shouldn't be interfering, he shouldn't be speaking over people. I find it astounding that a councillor can stand in this council chamber admitting he knows that law's been broken, but he's not prepared to give us the addresses so we can arrange inspections on those properties where he's admitted the law's been broken. That is completely wrong, and someone needs to investigate that, Madam Mayor.
Is it a point of clarification?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because my name was mentioned, and I think I need to clarify. First of all, Tom, you've been in the housing sector for a very long, 40 years, and you've lived in the town for, you know, a very long time, and you were portfolio holder for a very long time. This very council admitted that there was some substandard work going on, had and objected and raised the concern up nationally, my friend.
Sorry,
So, hang on.
Councillor
And
Khan.
you were one of those people. You were one of the. Hang on, just one.
If
one
it's
second.
a point of clarification, it's a point to clarify, but that's not clarifying.
Yeah, well,
what's been said.
clarification
So can
is,
we-
first of all, because as far as the private sector licensing is concerned, Councillor Tom Shaw has been talking about substandard HMOs for years
Okay,
on
that's
end.
also still
Why
not a
not?
point of
And
clarification,
then,
so I'm going to
he
stop you
tells
there.
me, he tells me
can I
to
stop you
report
there?
HMOs that he himself admits they were substandard. So don't have double standards. If you
Still not
blame
point of
others,
clarification.
you must also have that responsibility to report those substandard HMOs.
Point of clarification, Madam Mayor. Understanding order, I think it's 11.9.
Okay, go ahead.
The national campaign wasn't about HMOs. If you're going to get on your feet and argue with me, Councillor Hassan, get it right. It wasn't about HMOs. It was an external vendor being done wrong in the town by a lot of contractors, you probably know. But those contractors are no longer on our list.
Thank you, and I'd like to move on from that point,
point of order,
please.
we've got a very good motion here and we're getting away from
Yes,
it. So can we please
thank
get
you.
back to the motion? Thank you.
So I had Councillor Hussain, who was going to speak to the motion, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not asking for clarification of any sort. All I would say is that it's an excellent motion, but unless there are resources, and if we can, I'm not too sure if we have the powers in terms of the planning committee, if we can get a 106 contribution and the fire authorities consultees, and they can ask for the contribution from 106 from every development, that may help in terms of the funding that goes towards it. But in terms of the changes, you're expecting 12 months changes from the Labour government when 14 years the party that you supporting now has been in power, and they could have legislated if they wished to do that. They could have put the resources if they wanted to do that. Liberal Democrats are very good in terms of criticising, but please be positive sometime, so that what is your proposal to then in terms of fire safety that can improve the lives of the people in Luton? And that is the most important, because one of your colleagues made this point, buildings over 6 or 7 stories are still not safe, in my opinion, and the fire authorities have serious concern. Fire authorities have been prosecuting HMOs. Even the last meeting I attended, there was 3 prosecutions they were taking of the people that were in breach of that. So they do that with the limited resources, but if there were any extra resources that you can think the local authority, through their planning power, through their policy that they can do, then we should all support that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Did any member wish to speak before I bring Jackie in? No, perfect. Councillor Burnett.
Colleagues, I had really good hopes here that we wouldn't have gone party political. No, it really does grieve me that we've used scoring on party to get a point across. Yeah? It's people's life that we're talking about here. I've tried to read, I mean, I must have missed something here where officers, so let me be clear, this has been written substantially by officers, that this is patting the Labour Party. I want it on record, yeah? I didn't do this for party, I did this for people. This is about our people in the town. And we need to remember that. It's about our people, but making political score across the chambers. The main people we should be having a challenge is the developers that thought that they could come into this town and totally disrespect us. And each of you, like some of you are making this point, it's the developers that thought it was okay that officers, we got by Councillor Shaw saying, going in on enforcement. Because there's some parts in the UK that haven't got HMOs that are unsafe. They're of excellent high standards. So can we sometimes just think about the residents? This is what it's meant to be about. So I really need to come back to my colleague, Councillor Frank. This was never about patting the Labour Party. Our focus, my focus, asking officers, was about the people. And so we are clear, the new leader, the person leading the building safety regulation, is the two people that were involved in London Fire Brigade. Please read Grenfell. Please go and watch what went through. They had to live that. The London Fire Brigade had to live through that and were held accountable for those loss of life and others. Now, from their lived experience, they are now leading the building safety regulator. So hopefully it will benefit all of us. So I thank you for the debate, but I have to tell you that it shouldn't have got to the point about party. It's about the people. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that. And with that, the motion is before the council. Does any member vote against the proposal? Perfect. So the motion is carried. I'm on the wrong page. Sorry. So the next item of business is the notice of motion set out at agenda item 11.2 on the agenda. I call upon Councillor Stevens to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Everybody in this council chamber, I know, will believe that everybody has a right for a decent home. This group accepts that the Planning and Infrastructure Bill can play a major role in removing red tape, especially for construction desperately needed homes. And that need is very strong in Luton. Especially, we have a need for new housing, especially affordable family housing. But let me put this into some kind of context. The latest information provided by officers is that there are 12,228 families on the housing waiting list and 1,019 in temporary accommodation. And that doesn't take into account the fact that we have young people who have aspirations to own their own house going forward into the future. The situation is not being helped by the fact that we have a number of stalled sites across the town. And information given to me by Claire Asprey showed me that there were 23 stalled sites representing 6,000 potential homes in the town. Up in my ward, for example, at the bottom of Albert Road, in Cumberland Street, there are large sites which could be used to build homes for our desperately needed people across the town. So, yes, there are reasons why many of these sites are stalled. Yes, loans are expensive to get. Yes, cost of borrowing for materials, other important factors. But some of these sites have expired plan implication, and the applications, the consent has been expired for many years. So, as well as making progress on developing these sites, we will need to look at further sites across the town. But the search to build on such sites must not be at the detriment of our natural environment. According to the State of Nature report, the UK is considered one of the world's most nature-depleted countries. The UK's fauna has been seriously impacted, with the average abundance of species studied having declined by 19% since 1970, and 16% of those species are now edging to extinction. In common with other urban societies, species under threat in Luton include adders, stag beetles, hedgehogs, water voles, shrews, hazel dormice, skylarks, doves, and turtle doves. And most worrying of all, our major pollinators, like wild bees and bumblebees, are threatened towards extinction. Yes, pesticides may be causing some of this problem. Climate change is contributing to the problem, but a key factor is loss of habitat. We do need to ensure going forward that we protect what we have within Luton. We need to protect our ancient woodlands, Kidney Wood, Bramingham Wood, our chalk streams, rare geographical features across the world. We have 85% of them in this country. Our grasslands, our parks, our green spaces, and the increasingly rare species that you find on them. Some time ago, Roger Kirk kindly provided me with a list of 29 so-called greyfield sites, but on close inspection, I found that many of these sites were amenity, public open spaces, and recreation grounds. We've already seen the loss of Wandon Park. We will see the loss of Wigmore Valley Park, and with it, the additional loss of rare orchids if the airport expansion goes ahead. Whilst environmental delivery plans can be used to protect and manage the environmental impact on large developments, it can be argued that too much power lies in the hands of the Secretary of State, who has the power to reject or revoke a plan. It is also the case that environmental delivery plans may not be used to protect small sites and species on the sites, as it has been proposed that developers may instead be allowed to pay a nature restoration levy to fund off-site improvements. In conclusion, we do need the support of parliamentarians to help lobby for support and to get the strongest of possible amendments to protect Luton's remaining natural world and our increasingly rare species. I luckily have been able to make contact with Lord Hussein and also with Baroness Thornhill, and I'm pleased to say that they are working on some very strong amendments to go forward to the House of Commons. And I'm hoping that all of our parliamentarians will support, will add to, and will help us protect in Luton what we are in danger of losing going forward. I so move.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor, and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions first? There have to be questions about the motion. Yeah, okay.
Madam Mayor, just a point of clarification. Councillor Stevens said Wandon Park's been lost, but there was a replacement. There was a replacement park to replace Wandon Park nearby, 50 yards away. A better park with better facilities was provided to ensure people had that amenity.
I'm not sure that's a question.
Can I answer that?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'm totally aware of that fact, Councillor, but it was the wish of the residents in the area not to lose that original park, because it was well used by the community and there was no need to do that. And in fact, the replacement park isn't even in the borough, it's in Hertfordshire.
Okay. Do we have any questions about the motion? No. Perfect. Right. Do we have any amendments?
Please, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Go ahead.
We'll put it round. okay to move? Yeah? Yeah. Thank you very much for the resolution that's before us this evening. And there is a lot of sympathy with the intent and the purpose of what you're saying here. However, we think that the amendment before you this evening puts more of a Luton context to it. And I've added the part at the bottom that it reflects really what is already in our local plan and our policy that I think should be relayed to our parliamentarians when they're looking at whatever amendments come through. So what I'm trying to say is we want to come to some agreement on a way forward with this, but we think this reflects the Luton position much better than just your resolution. So we would ask if you would consider implementing this. If not, we'll happily vote with you, but only with the amendment, I'm afraid.
Okay. Do we do Does anyone second the amendment?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Right. That's okay. I'll give you a minute, but... So it goes in here.
Would you be willing to remove the second line that says that a Grade 2 listed with Historic England or have fields of trust deed protected and go back to the green spaces?
Okay.
No, unfortunately, we're not able to accept that. We think that it's right to specify particularly areas that we want protected.
I'm sorry, but we can't accept that because we need to find a way to protect our parks and recreation grounds and other areas. And that, just picking on just the grade 2 listed, it doesn't give that coverage and it doesn't give that protection to what we have within Luton. And we are in danger of losing more, because if we can lose 2 parks...
Okay, we can debate it in the next section. So, yeah, perfect. So, you want to keep the amendment to go forward. Perfect. So, with that in mind, are there any speakers to the amendment? And this is when you can put your hand up and say yes. So, as you've not accepted the amendment, and they still want to propose the amendment, we invite people to speak to the amendment. Okay? Right. So, sorry. Councillor Stevens. So if you wanted to speak now, you could speak now. So Councillor Ali as well. Okay, Councillor Ali.
Madam Mayor, thank you very much. Whilst I understand where the Labour Council, where Hazel is coming from, but to be honest, this amendment is trying to water down what we're trying to achieve here with this motion. We are trying to keep and protect the parks and green spaces that are left in Luton, because there's quite a lot of them that have already been built on. That is the main essence of this motion. So if we're trying to water it down to just grade 2 listed and historic England or fields of trust deeds, at this moment in time we don't even know how many fall under that, and therefore we wouldn't be willing to narrow this down any further. What this motion does is it protects all existing or remaining green spaces, and therefore it defies the whole point of actually putting this motion forward if we accept this amendment.
Okay. Just remind people that in this bit we're only speaking to the context of the amendment, yeah? Yeah. Okay. Any other speakers to the amendment? No, okay. So, I now invite the seconder of the amendment to speak if they wish to do so.
Well, I think this is an excellent amendment. I'm hoping my colleagues on the other side would accept it. This is definitely historic England, and us being more specific, I think we've all been adding is more context, and I was hoping that we could accept it, and I would urge my colleagues to vote for the amendment.
Councillor Stevens, you are now welcome to reply to the amendment, if you wish to do so.
Generally, we're trying to support what we were hoping to achieve by the original motion. What you've tried to do in the amendment is really to be restrictive. We don't want to. We do want to protect the environment. We do want to protect habitat. We don't want to build on the remaining habitat, especially our ancient woodlands and our grasslands, but also our parks and recreation, because they're needed by the population. I think Councillor Ahmed is quite right in what he says, that we don't know how many sites come under the grade 2 and the historic headings that have been put here. But we do know how many parks, and we do know how much recreation and amenity spaces that we have in Luton, and we really can't look to try and for those to disappear. The way that this amendment has been added to the emotion, or to replace part of the emotion, doesn't provide the same protection to those. And we may all wish to keep what we have, but there could be cases that has happened with Wandon Park. I take Councillor's point, there was another park there, but residents didn't want that. I understand that Wigmore Valley Park, I understand It's part of the airport expansion. But again, when we lose it, we lose the rare orchids that are growing on that site too. And we should be the caretakers going forward on behalf of our children and our grandchildren for protecting what we have within Luton. And unfortunately, restricting to the Grade 2 listed and the historic segments that are referred to does not provide that full level, I regret to say, that full level of protection.
Okay, thank you. So with that, the amendment is before the council. Does any member vote against the amendment? Does any member vote for the amendment? Okay, so the amendment is therefore carried. Motion is carried. Oh, are there any further amendments? No. Okay, back to, bear with me while I re-find my page. Okay, so we need to now read out the substantive motion, or
The amended motion.
yeah. So do I need to read the whole thing? Okay. So to make everything clear, I'm going to read the amended substantive motion. So the motion is that this council understands that the major delay in developing new home schemes in Luton is land banking by developers who obtain a planning consent and then fail to proceed with their plans, but nevertheless appreciates the importance of the Planning and Infrastructure Bill as a potential mechanism for removing red tape and hence allowing the quicker construction of major projects and desperately needed homes. It appreciates that the government has listened to several of the concerns raised by 30 of the country's leading environmental groups about the need to protect the natural environment, recognises that whilst a key feature of the bill is to introduce environmental delivery plans to manage impacts on some places where development will affect protected natural sites and species, it is not clear that these plans, as envisaged, will include Luton's irreplaceable habitats, including the ancient woodlands, chalk streams and site-specific protected species. Furthermore, acknowledges the deep fears amongst many residents and local groups that Luton is overdeveloped and that there is significant ongoing pressure to build on Luton's existing green space. Oh, sorry. Remove all after there is and replace. Oh, sorry. I misread that completely. Furthermore, acknowledges the deep fears amongst many residents and local groups that Luton is overdeveloped. All after there is and replace. And that there is continuing pressure to find land for housing development. Full stop. Council is aware that the bill is going through the committee stage, report stage and third reading in the House of Lords prior to returning to the Commons, where any amendments will be debated prior to a vote, and therefore calls upon the Chief Executive to write to Luton's 3 parliamentarians to request them to lobby for and support the strongest amendments that will ensure that Luton's irreplaceable habitats and areas that are listed and areas that are Grade 2 listed with Historic England or have a Fields and Trust deed are protected. We also request that they support the principle that developments that result in a loss of open spaces, park and green infrastructure will only be permitted where evidence demonstrates that the open space is not an area of identified deficit in the locality or replacement open space provision can be made that is of equivalent type, quality and quantity and accessible within the vicinity. Gosh, that's long.
Well done.
I got there eventually. Sorry about that. Are there any further amendments? Okay. Right, so now we move on to speaking about the substantive motion, which is what I've just read. Does any member wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Ali.
Madam Mayor, it is unfortunate that the Labour group again are trying to restrict a motion put forward by the Liberal Democrats to ensure that our green spaces, all of our green spaces, our woodland and what recreational facilities remain in the town, they're trying to dilute it again and leaving themselves open to build on them. It is unfortunate that Labour has decided to actually take this action on the basis of the fact that they have now passed the amendment, and we disagree with the fact that we should restrict to areas that are grade 2 listed with Historic England or have fields of trust deed are protected. Just to make it clear that we are against this particular bit of the amendment which they have refused to withdraw, and therefore we cannot support the amendment, and therefore we cannot support the motion in whole. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any further speakers to the amended substantive motion? Councillor Matt Fry.
Yeah, this is probably a point of order, but the first amendment said to remove the second sentence in the fourth paragraph. There isn't a second sentence.
Fourth paragraph, second sentence. No, it is all one sentence, but it does make sense.
It's acknowledged.
Yeah. Yeah, it's clear what's intended. Any other speakers to the amended substantive motion? No. Okay. So, the amended substantive motion is before the council. Does any member vote against the motion? Are we taking votes?
Yeah.
For? Okay, we're doing a show of hands. So, any members voting for the motion? Okay, the motion is carried. So, with that concludes the business for this meeting. And before you stand up, can I remind all members of Licensing Committee, Standards Committee and Taxi and Private Hire Licensing Committee to remain seated? Only for a few short